through some examples of the different number forms that we talk about in second grade. We talk about these heavily in our place value unit, but we'll spiral through recalling these forms as we go throughout the year. So our first one would be standard form. Standard form is literally just the digits that create the number. So sometimes it might be called number form. I tell the kids just think of it as the plain old number that you see with the numbers, the digits, whatever you want to think of it as. So like, for example, it would be 2 or 7 or 85. You could think of it as 311. 5,671. All of those would be examples of that standard form or number form where it's just the digits to represent the number. Then we get into our place value chart. Our place value chart is essentially what it sounds like. So in second grade, we deal with 3-digit numbers for the most part. We work on hundreds, tens, and ones. So it is a chart that has a space for our hundreds, our tens, and our ones. So for example, if we had the number 563, you can see that that is 5 hundreds, 6 tens, 3 ones. This is an extremely helpful tool when they are given the number. If it said that I had a number that had 4 ones, 9 hundreds, and 2 tens, then they can go through and put, okay, it was 4 ones, 9 hundreds, 2 tens. So it helps them to organize those numbers. The next one would be unit form. Unit form is kind of listing out that place value chart. So in that example of 900s or 924, it would be 9 hundreds, 2 tens, 4 ones. That would be an example of the unit form, essentially just where it has listed it out. It doesn't have to be stacked up on top of each other. It could be something like 2 hundreds, 3 tens, 9 ones, just where it shows the units that create that number. Then we get to our number bond. So if we were to use the number 643 as an example, we're creating a number bond, and we use this to help scaffold to get to expanded form. We can kind of think back to that unit form, but it's breaking it down and looking at the number of what that digit represents. So with 6 in the hundreds place, that has a value of 600. So that would be one of the number parts. If I break it down and look at the 4, that has a value of 40 because that's 4 tens. So that would be 40. And then finally, we have those 3 ones that would have a value of 3. So that number bond would be 600 as one part, 40 as one part, and 3 as one part that come together to make that 643. So then from there, we could create the expanded form, which is the addition sentence of those number value parts. There's a couple of different ways that I teach the kids to work on this expanded form. They struggle with it a little bit. They don't want to put the zeros to create like the hundreds and the tens. And I'll show you what I mean there. So if we were to try and give the expanded form for 472, the expanded form of that would be the value of the hundreds, which is 400, plus the value of the tens, which is 70, plus the value of the ones, which is 2. So we would have 400 plus 70 plus 2. We could look at this. The other way I tell the kids to look at this is to think back to that whale in the movie Dory, at Finding Dory, where he talks real stretched out. And think about, if they're struggling with it, think about stretching that number out of how you would say it. So it would be 472. And then go back and just add in those plus signs and the equals. So another example of that would be, let's change colors so it looks different. If I had 358, stretch that out again to, whale talk it, 358, and then go back and add in your plus signs. that is usually pretty helpful for them to, write what they are saying slowly. And then we kind of reverse that train of thinking. If, let's say, I had just this expanded form and I was asked, what does that equal? I tell them, okay, well, go through and read your numbers without the plus sign. So I would read 358. So what was my number? 358. A big thing here too is to have them pay attention to it. Some of them in our problem sets will have it where maybe it was listed as 8 plus 300 plus 50, or maybe they may have had 50 plus 8 plus 300. And I reminded the kids that we have talked about that addition property of it doesn't matter what order I add my add-ins. If I were to count all of the boys in my class and then all of the girls in my class, or if I were to count all of the girls first and then the boys, I'm still going to end up with the same number. It doesn't matter the order that we count them in. But if you're trying to figure out what number that is, you need to go back and write it in the correct order from greatest to least. Another strategy I gave some of them that were struggling to find this number was to then stack it up. So you had 300, you had 50, and you had 8. And then just add it down. So 0 plus 0 plus 8 equals the 8. 0 plus 5 would equal the 5. 3 plus nothing would equal that 3. So lots of different options there. The whale talking it, the stretching it out. The main point of it is just for them to be able to see the values of those numbers stretched out, kind of like a slinky. Then our word form is simply just the words that we say and would write to represent a number. So like 1 would be the word form of the number 1. Or if we had 304, we would write that out. Or 650, 2. I ran out of space there. We'll pretend that O's there. But like you said, it's just literally the words that we use to say the numbers. And then finally, we talk about model form, or sometimes called base 10 blocks. So that is drawing the blocks that would represent that number. So if I was given 363, and now I tell the kids I have a big issue with when they draw those cubes and then try to draw all the lines that represent all of the 10s together and all of the 1s, making this really messy looking grid. So to simplify it and make it easier for everybody, I tell them to use just squares for hundreds, sticks for 10s, and circles for 1s. So in drawing this number, I would have 3 hundreds, 6 10s, and 3 1s. To give you another example, if I had 506, I would have my 500s and then my 6 1s, just my 6 little circles. So it's just taking that number and showing each of the digits represented in the amount that they equal. So to put a ribbon on all of this, the examples of the number form, if I were to use the same number and give you an example of that, let's do the number 134. So there's my standard form, just the digits. The place value chart would be where I would have the hundreds, 10s, and 1s. So 134. My number bond would be where I stretched out. So I have 100, which has the value of 100. I have 3 10s, which I could skip count by 10s, 10, 20, 30, which would have the value of 30. And then my 4 1s, which just has a value of 4. And then if I look at the next one, I know it's hard to see, but it's the unit form. So I would have 100, running out of room, 3 10s, 4 1s. My expanded form of 134 would be 100 plus 30 plus 4. My word form would be 100, and I apologize, my finger on the iPad is getting quite messy, but 134 34, and that should be hyphenated. And then finally, my model form, I would have the 100, the 3 10s, and the 4 little ones. I hope this helps you help your child as we navigate through this place value unit and through our second grade year.